Good day, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Military and Foreign Affairs Network. I am your host, the voice of reason. In today's coverage of the ongoing fighting taking place inside of the former state of Ethiopia, the fighting continues. We continue to see very, very heavy fighting taking place within the vicinity of Debrecen and southwest of Debrecen. We continue to see the consolidation of forces of the Tigrayan Defense Forces south of Desce, south of Kombolcha, as they can continue to move in a southwesterly direction, ultimately towards the prize of Addis Ababa, also known as Fin. Now, there is reports of fighting occurring in the Afar region to the east of Bate. It continues to be reported that the former prime minister of the former state of Ethiopia is directing some of these combat operations in the Afar region. We can also confirm that one of the primary reasons that Abiy Ahmed, in all probability, it could be in the Afar region, is the fact that Eritrean forces are also operating inside of the Afar region as well, supporting the Afar regional militias and the remnants of the Ethiopian National Defense Forces. Now, with that being said, there appears to be a false narrative developing that would indicate that there has been military progress on the ground by the forces of the Ethiopian National Defense Forces, the Abiy loyalists being supported by the Eritrean army within the vicinity of Bati. They are reporting that there is a military move underway towards Kombolcha, but again, that has been discredited. There's simply not enough forces in the area right now to be able to make a significant drive and retaking control of Desce and Kombolcha at this time. In all likelihood, if we were to see a renewed offensive towards Desce and Kombolcha, in all probability, it would have to come from the southwest. Now, with that being said, there could be Eritrean forces being moved into the region, into the Afar region, to take part in certain operations near and east of Bate. But again, we're still trying to ascertain the movements of Eritrean forces and if, in fact, that is actually occurring. But again, there appears to be this false narrative that and I've seen it with other content providers as well, covering the war on YouTube. Again, the mainstream media just is not really covering the conflict, and it is really up to private content providers to offer an insight into the ongoing conflict. Now, with that being said, it is being reported, I quote unquote, of a game-changing offensive by the Ethiopian National Defense Forces towards Kombolcha. Now, let me try to compare and contrast that statement of looking at a game-changing offensive. From a military point of view, you could also have a game-changing defensive operation. Traditionally, when you launch an offensive operation against an opposing force, traditionally, you usually need 3 times the personnel to advance upon a defended position. So you really need to have a 1-to-3 ratio. So if there's 1 defender, you need to have 3 personnel attacking to seize control of a strong point. Now, with that being said, it would have been much easier and would have been a much more game-changing operation for the Ethiopian National Defense Forces to have successfully defended Dessie and Kombolcha. That would have been a game-changing operation if, in fact, they had never allowed the Tigrayan Defense Forces to seize control of Dessie and Kombolcha. But they did, and that actually occurred. And not only that, but the Tigrayan Defense Forces have since then pressed many, many miles south of Dessie and Kombolcha. So the idea that you're going to create a military unit that has already been defeated in this vicinity to then re-engage the Kombolcha Dessie area that you've already lost because you couldn't defend it, that just makes no sense. It doesn't make any military sense, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And I think even from the extent of private content providers, probably just not understanding a war, not understanding military strategy, not understanding the operational art, and again, we're putting too much emphasis on offensive operations, on a successful offensive operations. It is much easier to conduct a successful defensive operation than a successful offensive operation. Okay, so that statement means a lot, in fact. So if we go back and we look at the engagements that took place near Dessie and Kombolcha, you can see for yourself that the Ethiopian National Defense Forces, their operation, both the offensive operation that took place before Dessie and Kombolcha fell, was obviously led by some fairly incompetent leaders and incompetent preparation. And then furthermore, the defensive operations that took place to prevent Dessie and Kombolcha from falling were further led by some very, very incompetent military professionals, or military unprofessionals, I would say, at that point. But that is the status quo that occurred, and we're looking at right now. That actually happened. Dessie and Kombolcha was seized, and those forces were driven out. So the idea that you would create this capability to do even a more significant operation, a operation that would require a higher level of competencies, which would be the re-seizure, the retaking of Dessie and Kombolcha, is just something that at this point I'm not sure the Ethiopian military has. And in all probability, right now, what we're seeing is at least in the Afar region, is advances made by Afar regional militias supported by the Eritrean army. Again, the Ethiopian National Defense Forces were soundly defeated in this area. And the idea that 1 month later, they're going to suddenly have this capability to launch a successful counteroffensive against Dessie and Kombolcha when they couldn't even properly defend it originally, that simply it just doesn't mesh with what's happening on the ground. It doesn't mesh with what's happening or what has happened prior in this conflict. And I hope that makes sense for those who are watching the channel and kind of can understand, even if you're on the side of the Abiy loyalist side. And again, I'm just trying to provide you with sound and rational information on what is actually occurring, as opposed to giving you a false narrative and giving you the idea that after a massive and unprecedented military defeat that took place near Dessie and Kombolcha, that the Ethiopian National Defense Forces 30 days later would have the ability to then retake Dessie and Kombolcha when they couldn't even hold on to it to begin with. I hope that makes sense. But anyway, that's the status right now. Again, false narrative, probably to alleviate the progress of the Tigrayan Defense Forces as they continue to move south towards Addis Ababa, and again the idea that the Ethiopian National Defense Forces, and I think that those who are watching this from the Ethiopian National Defense Forces, the Abiy loyalist side, seem to think somehow that from Samara they're going to come through, they're going to drive west, seize Dessie, Kombolcha, and cut off the entire Tigrayan Defense Forces in the south. Guys, that's not going to happen. The ENDF has been beaten. It is a discombobulated force. It is barely holding on right now. And again, I know that's hard to listen to, and especially if you're on the Abiy loyalist side of the equation, I understand that. But those are the facts on the ground. They've been beaten. They lost Dessie, they lost Kombolcha, they lost a significant amount of manpower even prior to that during the engagements when they lost Kobo, Weldea, and a host of other towns and cities in between Dessie and Kombolcha. And right now, the facts on the ground are what they are. The Tigrayan Defense Forces have progressed 160 miles deep into the Amhara region and are operating a front nearly 70 miles in broadness. So again, a penetration of 160, 170 miles deep, and are operating along a frontal zone of another 70 miles from southwest to southeast. So again, the idea that you're suddenly going to launch this massive counteroffensive when the Ethiopian National Defense Forces, the remnants of the Ethiopian National Defense Forces, could not even conduct a proper defense of Dessie and Kombolcha once they had assembled this large counteroffensive force that they were going to use to march north and seize Weldea and launch another operation from Gashina, seize Gashina, and approach Weldea from a two-pronged offensive. That failed. And again, but most likely you're just seeing some incredibly incompetent leaders. You're seeing a military that was not ready to do what it has been tasked to do, and that's why you're seeing the battlefield defeats that we're now seeing on the ground. So again, those are the facts, and this is rumor control. But again, the concept of this quote unquote game changing offense towards Kombolcha, you're just giving yourself really kind of a false hope if you're hoping that in fact occurs. But again, right now, the best operation that the Ethiopian National Defense Forces, the Abiy loyalists, could hope to conduct at this point, from a military point of view, is continuing to hold Debre Berhan, hold the line near Debre Sena, and prevent further advances near Delgalo. That would be a military success. Not creating these grandiose, fictitious offenses offensive operations that are going to occur, because it's just not going to occur right now. The ENDF is in a really, really desperate situation, and the Tigrayan Defense Forces have the initiative, and right now have a much more competent military force that is defeating their adversary. But again, that's just what is occurring on the ground, not picking sides. And if you don't like what you're hearing, I understand it, especially if you're on the losing side of the equation. The truth hurts. Have a good day, everybody.